When you hear the name Stephen Hawking, what do you picture? Probably a man in a wheelchair, right? But that was just the shell. Inside was a mind that was completely, totally free, a mind that could journey to the edge of a black hole or travel back to the very first second of time. It's that unbelievable human spirit that we're going to explore. You know, Hawking had a favorite quote, and it was from Hamlet. It just perfectly sums up the incredible paradox of his life. He was this king of infinite space. His mind could go anywhere, but it was trapped inside a body that was slowly failing him. So what did this king of infinite space actually figure out? What did he learn about God, about the universe, and, our little place in it all? That's what we're going to unpack. How did a man facing his own mortality completely change how we see everything? Let's dive in. Okay, so before we get to the mind-bending physics, you have to understand the man himself. And his story begins with that brilliant mind meeting, well, a truly impossible challenge. First off, get this for a cosmic coincidence. Hawking was born exactly 300 years to the day after the death of Galileo, the father of modern science. And from a young age, it was obvious this kid was on another level. He got into Oxford at just 17 and later figured he probably only studied for about an hour a day. Why? Because it was all just too easy for him. But then, right as his career was supposed to be taking off, disaster struck. At 21, he was diagnosed with ALS. And the doctors, they gave him just 2 years to live. They told him his body would fail him, but his mind would remain perfectly sharp, trapped inside. Can you even imagine that? But 2 years? Hawking absolutely shattered that prediction. He didn't live for 2 more years. He lived for 55. 55! In that time, he became a father, one of the most famous scientists on the planet, and a true icon of human determination. So you have to ask, what kept him going? Well, the answer really was a person, Jane Wilde. He met her right before the diagnosis, and her love, her fierce belief in him, it gave him a reason to fight back. As he put it, she gave him something to live for. All right, so with this new purpose, Hawking aimed his incredible mind at the biggest questions in the entire cosmos. And he started with maybe the strangest things out there, black holes. So a quick refresher, what is a black hole? Well, just think of a massive, dead star that collapses under its own weight. The gravity becomes so intense that it creates a point of no return. Once you cross that line, the event horizon, that's it. There's no coming back. Not even light can escape. It's wild. So here's where things get really interesting. Working with the physicist Roger Penrose, Hawking was studying the math behind the very center of a black hole, a point of infinite density called a singularity. And then he had a massive breakthrough. He realized, what if you take that math and run it in reverse for the whole universe? We know the universe is expanding, so if you rewind the tape, it must have all started from a single infinitely dense point, a singularity. And just like that, the Big Bang Theory went from being a cool idea to having solid math to back it up. But that wasn't even his most famous discovery. By blending Einstein's theory of relativity with the weird rules of quantum mechanics, Hawking showed that black holes aren't completely black. See, right at the very edge, pairs of tiny particles are constantly popping into and out of existence. Every so often, one gets sucked in while its partner escapes. To someone watching from far away, it looks like the black hole is glowing, emitting what we now call Hawking radiation. And this means that over an unimaginable amount of time, black holes can actually shrink and evaporate completely. They aren't forever. But figuring all this stuff out wasn't enough for Hawking. He didn't want to just keep these incredible ideas to himself. He wanted all of us to understand the universe too. And boy, did he succeed. His book, A Brief History of Time, was a phenomenon. We're talking more than 25 million copies sold. All of a sudden, normal people were talking about the Big Bang and black holes. It turned complex physics into a global conversation, even if we all joke about which chapter we got lost in. And when you start thinking about the origin of the universe, it naturally leads to one of the biggest, oldest questions there is. Where did all this come from? Did we need a creator? Hawking's answer here was a real game changer. He argued that because fundamental laws of nature like gravity exist, a universe like ours can just spontaneously pop into existence all by itself. No divine intervention needed. For him, the laws of physics were a powerful enough explanation. I know what you're thinking. How do you get something from nothing? Well, he had a brilliant analogy. Imagine you want to build a hill on a flat piece of land. To get the dirt for the hill, you have to dig a hole. So now you have a positive hill and a negative hole. It all adds up to zero. He argued the universe is the same way. All the positive energy of matter and stars is perfectly balanced by negative energy woven into space itself. The grand total? Zero. The universe, he said, is the ultimate free lunch. So after spending his life looking all the way back to the beginning of time, in his final years, Hawking turned his gaze forward to the future of us. And he left us with some pretty serious warnings. He feared a super intelligent AI, not because it would be evil, but because it would be so competent that its goals might just not align with our survival. He worried that gene editing could create a new race of superhumans, leaving the rest of us behind. And he insisted that to survive in the long run, we absolutely must become a multi-planet species. You know, this idea was actually inspired by a science fiction story. In it, an advanced alien race says the first time they ever noticed humanity was hundreds of thousands of years ago, when a few of our primitive ancestors just spent a little too long staring up at the stars. That single moment of pure curiosity, they said, was the first step on the path to unlocking everything. And really, that's what Stephen Hawking's life was all about, the power of that curiosity. Confined to a chair, he journeyed to the dawn of time and the edge of black holes, simply by asking why. So his legacy isn't just in the incredible answers he found, but in the questions he inspires all of us to ask.